Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyakta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatosh Maham Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste, my dear friends. We are here for our Q&A slash the big picture. So do we have any questions to begin our satsang today or, or not? If we don't, we can move into the big picture for a change. So what do you tell me? Okay, no questions, right? So on the big picture, there's this nice small introductory book written by Swami Paramarthananda. After we have seen what it is, Vedanta, and then we understood that it requires a means of knowledge, and then we covered the subject of direct and indirect knowledge. We have the understanding that most of everyone in the world seeks the self, seeks for something that could put an end to the sense of inadequacy and smallness and limitation which is inherent to the body-mind construct. So everybody search for something that could put an end to that and could allow us to live now with a sense of freedom and limitlessness. And that is said self-knowledge, that is self-finding God, or any different notions, but all of these notions, they always boil down to be seeking something other than yourself. Because although I want to find myself, but we still tend to even the final mantras of the Upanishads, such as Tattvamasivos, you are that limitlessness, you are that fullness, is still, it is indirect knowledge until it becomes direct knowledge, right? So the very final process of Jnana Yoga of Vedanta is still, is is kind of indirect knowledge, and it becomes direct knowledge only when the Aham Brahmasmi, is fully recognized. I mean, which it becomes factual. It's no longer something that I wish to believe, I wish to internalize, I wish to digest. I could really see Brahman and say, okay, I see Brahman and I see that I am Brahman. Because I mean, I went through all of that and I want to see Brahman in the end. I want to see, to believe it, And I used to say my prayers, so I want to see you, and I know that I'm not apart from you, but I need to see you to believe, that I am you and you are me. It was before Vedanta. I was confused, of course. And, it's this indirect knowledge, it remains up to the last moment when that indirect knowledge becomes direct. It's also good to put it in that perspective, because for as long as we are seeking, we are still dealing with indirect knowledge, because in very, very subtle unconscious way, we still believe that we need to accomplish or reach or connect or arrive at at something, so that I can melt, I can merge in Brahman as Brahman. So these notions, they are very, very subtle, and they remain until the search is literally over. Okay. And then we have what we call directly knowledge, which a lot of people in the spiritual world finds it to be a heresy. A heresy, it says, because how can you say that you are Brahman, I say, no, don't worry. I'm not saying that from any kind of vanity angle. I'm saying that everything is Brahman. So there's no question of the ego involved. And we know when we come to Vedanta, we need to have prepared, we need to be prepared by understanding also Ishvara knowledge. Vedanta is self-knowledge, is the knowledge about Satya, the only true reality, let's say. And but we need to understand the apparent reality, because we are trapped in this apparent reality. So therefore, we need the knowledge, which we sometimes say, so, okay, you need Ishvara knowledge as well, which means to say the knowledge in respect to Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. We need to understand Maya, we need to understand Mitya, and in the process of understanding Mitya, we develop certain spiritual, religious, mental, emotional qualifications that allows us to go into the Yana Yoga of Vedanta. Okay, so Vedanta, Karma, Dharma, and Upasana is within the umbrella of Vedanta, because those are the preparatory stage to enter into what? Into Sravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. So we need to be somehow prepared before we enter. Otherwise, we're going to be lacking certain qualifications, and very often we just say, okay, okay, okay. So I want something a little bit more faster. I don't want to go through, you know, any of these intellectual stuffs of listening, contemplate. I want an experience that is going to resolve this problem. Yeah, people, they tend to go back to the experiential search. Yeah? And we come to Vedanta, we are properly prepared, we understood the importance of Dharma, we understood the laws around karma, actions, and its results. We understood all the factors involved in the field that are going to bring about the results, one's destiny, and in a collective way and in a singular way. So we begin to understand the laws operating here, and then we are absolutely convinced that the only intelligent option here is to follow Dharma and to sacrifice our likes and dislikes, our ego-centered needs or beliefs that I want this. So we need to come to that understand in regards to Dharma, karma, the laws governing the human experience here, and then we are ready to enter the Yana Yoga of Vedanta. The Yana Yoga, I mean, there are a lot of Yana Yoga. What is Yana Yoga? Yana Yoga is just the path of knowledge. Oh, yes, I know Yana Yoga. I have been with Nisargadatta Maharaj. But no, that is not Yana Yoga. You understand? Yana Yoga is a complete science presented by the Upanishads and further developed in the Brahma Sutras and the modern texts, from our more recent uh, Mahatmas, like Shankaracharya, and many others. So the Yana Yoga of Vedanta is a science of reality, the science of consciousness, and it begins with Shravana. What is Shravana? Shravana is listening, and listening is not hearing. Listening is paying attention and processing the words, the revealed words by the Upanishads, because they are words coming directly from the self, from consciousness, yeah? Revealed by the pure intelligence, which is Ishvara. pure sattva, yeah? The intelligence that somehow knows how to keep this apparent universe in place and governed by its very laws, yeah? Knowledge, intelligence. So we need to listen to what Ishvara has to tell us. And it tells us, okay, now that you understood that life is not only about matter consuming, experience. You understood that life is not purely materialistic, but life, the purpose of life is to understand the spirit of everything, the fundamental nature of everything, which is the nature of this jiva atma. No? So now that we understood the highest value of life, which is the pursuit of self-knowledge and moksha, and then what happens? It happens that we are ready to listen to what Ishvara has to tell us in the final chapters of the Vedas. Vedanta is the end of the Vedas after we have gone through all other stages, in our spiritual, religious development. And then we come to the Veda Anta, the end of the Vedas. And how does that begin? It begins with listening. Oh, that's a piece of cake. Anybody can do that. No, you cannot. If you want to listen to Vedanta, if you want to listen, and if you really are able to listen to Vedanta, you are a rare individual, because most people, they want to hear to any other kind of stuff, most garbage, but they don't want to hear to this revealed truth. Why? Because it makes no sense to them. Their mind is gross. You understand? And their desires are only for security, Artha Kama. They don't even get to have a desire for Dharma. It's Artha Kama, and they cannot listen and cannot make any sense of this. And then we come to Vedanta, and we need to listening to the Upanishads, to these teachings, requires a very, very focused and clear and subtle and refined mind, because it is, although it's relatively simple, it's extremely subtle. Okay. And not to say that the individual had come to a point in which he says, okay, any and everything that I read and heard, and all my belief system has not yet solved this fundamental problem of mine. So now I'm going to listen to Vedanta, and I'm going to listen with an open mind, now with a flexible mind, with a humble mind. Okay. So I'm not the guy, no, I know I'm going to listen to Vedanta to see if Vedanta is right, you know. So no, you don't listen to Vedanta to check it out. You listen to Vedanta because you came to the point you say, okay, nothing has solved this problem. My ego, my mind have been trying to solve this, but somehow I'm still suffering. I'm gonna listen to what the Upanishads have to say. So it's not for anyone, So, and that's where we begin today on the listening, Sravana. Yeah? The first stage when we come to the to the Upanishads, when we come to the last three stages. Yeah? I mean, the first stage of Vedanta is Karma Dharma, and then the second, there is a concession there to Upasana, so that we can discipline and regulate the mind, the intellect, and the sense organs, and so on. And then, the following, yeah, the third is Sravana, is listening to the final teachings. Okay, so this stage, which is presented here as the first stage of the Yana Yoga of Vedanta, involves listening to the teachings with the help of a qualified teacher. So why it requires a teacher? Just to make things even more difficult for the ego. There is nothing worse to the ego than accepting a teacher. You know, it's the most common thing. People come, they just come a little closer to someone who somehow unfolds these teachings, share these teachings, but they are always a little bit like that because the ego is still suffering from such a sense of identification with the body mind that he's competing with the guy who is just a messenger. You understand? And he believes that the guy exposing the teachings, unfolded teachings, has a higher status. It's all the ego tripping, and it's infantile ego. So you need to have a help of a qualified teacher, and that brings us on some of what I often call pre-qualifications for Vedanta. So, what are these pre-qualifications for Vedanta that I often mention? Is humility, trust that Vedanta comes in one single package. It is the teachings and the teacher come together. Okay, so you have humility, you are humble, you accept that alone you couldn't figure it out, and then you accept the teacher and the scriptures, and then you need to have a third pre-qualification, as I like to put, which is patience, because a Brajasic, unprepared person wants instant results, and in the spiritual evolution of the Jivatma, there is no instant results unless we are one of those spiritually highly qualified that just hear the truth and integrates the truth instantly. But that does not come by chance. It comes by a lot of work done before or in previous births. Okay, so Shravana, listening, this is not a passive hearing, but involves the full participation of the student as he or she listens to the teachings. No? What kind of participation? Oh, it is debating, opposing, objecting. No. Participation is an inner, internal participation of listening and listening and listening and keeping your doubts, to the side and listening. And then in the process of more listening, most of the doubts are going to be resolved. Okay, but this intellectual participation has to be present, because if you listen to the teachings of the Upanishads as you listen to a mantra or as you listen to a music, when I used to go to Tiruvannamalai, so I used to love to go to the Ramana ashram to the Vedic chantings in the early morning, in the afternoon as well, in which all those kids, and some adults as well, they keep repeating the Vedas that they memorize. They memorize the Vedas and some of the teachings of Ramana that he wrote as well. And it's an incredible, beautiful feeling experience. Mark, you remember? I mean, you get high there. You get high just to listen the rhythm, and you know that is coming from Vedic texts, that somehow the words are exalting the nature of Saguneshwara and Nirguneshwara, and you don't understand anything because it's Sanskrit, but you get high. Okay, so I used to listen to that, remembering myself again and again. It's about Saguna and Nirguneshwara. It's about Saguna, and then you get a better eye, and and you get a better understanding. Although you cannot really capture the words, the meaning of the word. So it's not a passive. The intellect has to be involved, because Vedanta is not only about getting high with the energy of what's being said, but it is about canceling ignorance by understanding the meaning of the words that are being said. Okay, this is a distinction that needs to be understood. It's an intellectual process that allows us to cancel or neutralize or remove our our ignorance. Oh no, but I prefer just to get high. Okay, get high. So you get high, you get low. You get high, you get low. And we never really address the fundamental problem, which is the ignorance that is there. governing our human experience. That is the full participation, and it is intellectual. The teaching is presented, I don't know why it so often does that. The teaching is presented in a precise and systematic manner, and the student must understand each part of the teaching before moving on to the next. So Vedanta is satsangs are very nice, and I know how beautiful it is, the energy of satsang, of Q&A satsangs, but in order to develop this big picture, this full picture, as the title of this book suggests, Vedanta is the development of a vision, the vision, a true vision of reality, which includes the superimposition called Maya, called Ishwa, called Mitya, but you see through Mitya and you understand the true nature of reality. So, in order for us to develop this vision, we need to go through a system, an entire teaching methodology that has to be presented gradually, okay? As we go through the Gita, as we go through the Upanishads, and as we go through the recent texts written by our great Mahatmas. So it is a systematic, it is a persistent, consistent effort that we do. And I can tell you from my own experience that it works. And I can tell you by observing the experience of the people who have been studying, with me, especially here in Brazil, that the progress is unavoidable. It goes like that, You just begin growing in your understanding, in your strengths, mental, emotional strengths, and clarity of mind, purification, refinement of mind. Everything changes, and Lynn knows, Mark knows, you go all know how much we gain as we begin working our intellect through Vedanta. Like Shimaya one time said, somebody lacking the qualification of patience came to Shimaya and said, Shimaya, no, Gita, no, Gita. I mean, I have gone through Gita several times. And then Shimayananda said, that's all right. But here, you're going to take it easy and allow Gita go through you. You understand? So we need to allow the Upanishad to do its magic. Yeah? And then we need to do it systematically, persistent, with the help of the teacher, resolving our doubts and not jumping to the, oh no, I mean, I like to, when I used to be very rajasic, I used to read the books from the end to the beginning because I want to know the end of the story. I used to go and the last chapter, I read it like that, and then I jump a little bit to the middle and then to the beginning, and then now I'm going to read the whole thing, No, you have to go from one chapter to another chapter, one lesson to another until it gets clear, and that is absolutely necessary. And the presence of a teacher is also indispensable before we move to the last statement of the Upanishads. Oh no, no, no! What I want to know what's the last one? I say, oh no, everything is Brahman. Nothing exists. Nothing has ever existed. There is no teaching. Everything is just like a dream. It's a mirage. The only reality is you, Brahman. Get over it. Go home, and the search is over. I was with Papa G. I was with Ganga G. I went a few times to visit Ramesha Balsekar, and they used to go, and they often used to hammer on this point. I mean, call off the search, stop seeking. There is nothing to seek. There is nothing to start. You are that. You are that. So if we are too anxious, we want to jump to the final statements of the Upanishads and say, no, I want the ultimate truth. And the ultimate truth is not going to work for a mind which is not ultimately prepared for the ultimate truth. Understand? So the mind has to be prepared. And this can be challenged for it. It is common for many doubts to arise in the initial stage. In spite of this, it's advisable not to ask questions at this stage. In this initial stage, people have to be quiet, you know. They need to be quiet. There was a time I was living there in Tiruvannamalai. There was a teacher, a new Vedanta teacher that was teaching nearby there in one of Dayananda's ashram. And I found it very interesting because of their proximity with Tiruvannamalai. Some people from Tiru was going there, Westerners, and they want to ask questions. And he used to say, shut up, shut up, listen. No questions are allowed here. No. So this is the tradition. The tradition is like, no, it's not productive to interrupt the teacher again and again with your question, because a lot of the questions are not really relevant for in the context of what's being unfolded, So you have to go back and listen to previous teachings, maybe. So it can be challenged because the doubts come, the student is impatient and he's rajasic, and he believes that the world is going round and round around himself, his needs, and so on. And a lot of the time they may be arrogant. So in spite of this, the students should not ask questions. Okay, they need to really go through the teachings and allow the teachings to naturally and gradually dissolve those questions. All questions tend to be answered, as we know. The student requires a certain amount of pre-qualification, such as faith and patience. Faith in the teachings and the teacher, and patience. Yeah? Because instant results are not possible, you know, in the spiritual world. One must be open to receiving the vision of Vedanta as it's revealed bit by bit. And there is a lot of repetition. Ramji does a good work to reduce the repetition. And because Rajasic people do not like repetition, they say, no, I want to go faster through this. No, just go fast and so on, and don't repeat the same concept. Why Vedanta repeats itself so often? Because ignorance repeats itself too often. Ignorance is so hardwired that it keeps playing and presents itself in our mind, telling us, all those things that reinforce avidya and our sense of limitation. So therefore, Vedanta repeats itself again and again and again and again, and we need to understand that there is a purpose in all this, grounding and grounding, repeating and repeating, that sometimes the impatient mind gets really annoyed with it. The painting, Vedanta is like a painting. A painter cannot paint the whole picture in a single stroke. The painting can only be completed gradually, and until it is complete, one should not disturb the artist. That's very nice analogy, huh? Very, very nice. Similarly, with Vedanta, one should sit back and listen clearly as the teaching is unfolded. Huh? Can you see there the importance of these pre-qualifications, trust in the teachings / teacher, patience, and all of that begins with humility. Humility. See, people have a wrong notion about humility. Oh, humility. Oh, no. I mean, I feel small if I'm humble. No, humility, humbleness is a real elevated quality. It's a high quality in the human mind to be really humble. You know, it's only very, 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 wise people can be truly humble. Otherwise the ego is all the time experience what the opposite, the vain, and pride, this is a childish ego. It is an unwise ego, uneducated ego. Properly educated wise ego does not experience vanity. Vanity is for the fools, you know. So humbleness is for the wise, no? Because the ultimate truth is that we don't know anything. Ishvara knows everything for us. And the only thing that we may know or may not know is Aham Brahmasmi. And thank you, Lord Ishvara, for revealing these teachings to us. Similarly, with Vedanta, one should sit back, listen clearly as the teachings unfold. So once we have gone through a large extension of these teachings, and then we are presented with what's called Manana. Manana is reflection and contemplation. So it is important to understand that Sravana, this listening, and Manana, reflection, contemplation, it's not like two blocks, you know, two blocks which no, you have to listen and reflecting is not allowed. No, no, we cannot listen without reflecting it. You understand? Reflecting over it. We cannot listen without processing and contemplating, and applying it. Everything happens together. So we have those three aspects of Vedanta present separately, but it does not mean that they do not overlap. You understand? So the unprepared student does not have a very open and flexible mind. What is a flexible mind? It's a mind that can make room for new concepts. If the mind is very tight and narrow, it does not make room for any new concept. I say, no, no, no. I only listen to what is already my conditioning, my spiritual condition. But a flexible mind, they say, oh, that's interesting. I never thought from this angle. Oh, that is amazing. Oh my God, this is devastating because it's going to destroy a lot of things I'm totally identified. But it's a flexible mind. Understand? So this mind is going to begin not only listening, but contemplating, reflecting, processing it while you're listening. But we go through the listening, and then the second stage, which is suggested here, is go back to what you listened and further contemplate and reflect until no doubts are left behind. Okay? It does not mean that we listen like a machine. We listen and then we go back and then we listen again. Thanks God we have the technologies that allows us to listen again and stop, pause, or have the text and read again, read again, read again, you know. So and then we can really study it. We can you know reflect and contemplate and see, you know, uh, what is not clear for me about this, why this is somehow appearing to me as contradiction. If there are some apparent contradictions, they must be resolved because they are going to undermine our trust, our confidence in the scriptures as a valid means of moksha. You understand? So we need to listen and we need to reflect and we need to go through our vagueness, our superficial understandings, and things that a little bit, makes not real sense to me. And then I say, it's okay. No, leave it there. No, we need to clear. We need to clear. This is very, very important because otherwise we are never going to believe the scripture when the scripture comes to us and say, you are Brahman, you are limitless, infinite conscious existence. You understand? And you don't need to do anything, just accept your simple nature. We are never going to accept that because we have too many doubts, vagueness, abstractions, suspiciousness, conflicts, conflicting ideas. You understand? Old ideas that are still fighting the vision of the Upanishads. So we need to take time for this Sravana. You understand? Really reflecting, contemplating, taking time. This is what brings up. It's not the same thing. There is no fine. There is no a clear line between Manana and Nididhyasana. When we are when we are doing our study and contemplation, we are doing both. You understand? We are contemplate on what we heard, and we are just applying the teachings. We are just assimilating bits and pieces, integrating it in our lives. Saying yes, it makes sense, and clearing the doubts. So again, there is no clear line between Manana and Nididhyasana, and this is a work that the teacher cannot help on those levels. You understand? The teacher can help in unfolding the teachings, and clearing some doubts if the student presents one's doubts, like Claudio often does, like like David often does. You understand? So, but the contemplation, the manana and the nididhyasana, it's the student alone must do it, and it's important to have a backup. The teacher as someone who can try to help one to clear one's doubt. Okay, so the student is in the second stage that student can share these doubts with the teacher and resolve them. Very, very important to share one's doubt. There are people who are shy about sharing doubts. Some people may believe that is a sign of weakness, is a sign of not being a fully wise yoni. You understand? And but this is not really very productive, you know. So we need to do exactly like Claudio and Lean very often does, like all of us do when we present our doubts, our questions, something that needs. So we need to take time for that. Considerable time exposing our minds to the teachings and clearing our doubts. Even subtle doubts can affect the outcome. Very subtle doubt. Those subtle doubts, they say, it doesn't matter. You say, it is not really relevant. Even subtle doubts can affect the outcome because it's going to undermine my trust in the final statements of the Upanishads in a way that my self knowledge is not going to be a hard and fast, a full conviction of self knowledge. You understand? A doubtless self knowledge. No, if there are subtle doubts, it's going to be a subtle doubted self-knowledge. Understand? And self-knowledge is still, conditioned by subtle doubts. And then when we most need the teachings, there will be some doubts, and then we, oh no, I'm not really clear about these notions that I am the free spirit, limitless aware. I'm just going to run and save my skin, save the, the bag of bombs. You understand? I'm going to go for saving my skin. So, is these doubts need to be, otherwise they will be affecting the outcome. Eventually, all doubts, all confusions, all superimpositions, all misunderstanding must be resolved. It's only then that the words of the teaching become a living, breathing reality for the inquirer. When once we have no doubts about the statement, it's not that. We have no doubts about Vedanta. We have no doubts about the statements of Vedanta. No, we don't. We have no doubt about my nature as free, limitless consciousness. You understand? Because Vedanta is just the logic that supports this suggestion that our true identity is free, limitless consciousness. Okay, so I need to have it all cleared all this doubt so that this teaching become a living teaching. A living teaching is very interesting because it's like that. The teaching is wonderful. I understood most of it, and so on, and I think I'm fine. But if your life and the teachings they are not really conformed, it means that the teaching did not become your very life. meaning to say your life is not lived from the perspective that I am a limitless, infinite awareness, consciousness. You understand? I'm still like, oh, okay, no, I like the idea. I accept that is my fundamental nature, but I'm still a little bit more, attached to my jiva nature. I care much. I accept that I am consciousness, you know, but I am the body mind as well. You understand? When we are in that level, no, I am both. Okay. I mean, I have no doubts with Vedanta, but when I'm studying, I am consciousness. When I'm meditating, doing my Nididhyasana, but when I'm living in the world, I am the body mind. Okay? So it becomes a living experience. My life and the teachings are one, they are conformed. This is what it means, the final vision of Vedanta, when it's fully internalized and integrated, so that one lives one's life from the standpoint, I am free from the world, the experience do not change me. This is reflection, and this is a very, very interesting point here, because Paramarthananda, he used different words here and there, and I'm glad that Ramji left that words here. The third stage, Swami Paramarthananda presents as integration. He often talks about integration or internalization of the teachings, which is not far from assimilation of the teachings. Okay, there are many different ways to understand the third stage, which, as I explained before, there is not a clear line dividing the reflecting contemplation from the assimilation or integration, internalization, okay, which is the fructification or the byproduct of listening and contemplating. You listen, you contemplate, and as this work is fructifies, okay, and then it becomes a living reality. It becomes internalized, integrate in my life as a Jivatma. Now the work of Vedanta, the teachings itself, were properly internalized, digest, process in a way that I live from that angle, from that platform of understanding. Okay, once the teaching has been understood and the doubts were resolved, the final stage is called Nididhyasana, and this continues indefinitely. And this continues indefinitely. Why? Because Maya is going to be present the world of duality in which impacts the body-mind complex again and again and again. Okay, the body-mind complex is an integral part of Mithya, and the body-mind construct is impact and affected by the Prarabdha karma. Whatsoever is happening in Mithya is impacting the body-mind construct. And then what is the tendency of the body-mind construct? Is to look for security at any cost. This is an automatic response of every individual, with or without a clear self-knowledge. So therefore, this association with the scripture, this nididhyasana, to keep these teachings alive in our intellect is fundamental. Why? Because Maya is going to hit us again and again with duality. The duality is going to keep affecting the body-mind construct, and we need to stay clear that the body-mind construct is just an object, and I don't change when my body mind change. I don't change when my mind changes. I don't change with anything, because what I am does not change with experience. Okay, so this nididhyasana, this keeping these teachings alive in one's intellect, has to continue until the last breath, as Papaji once said. You know, Papaji, on those days, he used to talk about vigilance. He was about dying. Somebody asked him, and how about this vigilance, Papaji? Are you keeping it still? And he said, oh, until the last breath. You need to keep vigilant, okay? Why? Because Maya is very powerful and it's going to keep presenting duality and, and the human impulse is that to protect the body mind, because it is building this natural tendency for the preservation and maintenance of this peace that I'm all the time identified with the agent, the body mind to protect it. Okay, but then we need these teachings, this Nididhyasana to continue indefinitely. It is here that we learn to integrate the knowledge we have been given. We're going to integrate it in a way that these unconscious vasanas that are always searching for security and pleasures, they do not run my program anymore because now I am a Vedantic program or Upanishadic program on the Jiva level. You understand? This can take considerable time. Therefore, we have these ideas that are present in our text about 5, 10, and 15. So we do 5 years of studying, listening, and so on. We do 10 years of contemplation. And then we do the rest of our life with integration, nididhyasana, application of self knowledge again and again and again. And people say, oh my God, it's too much investment. I don't have time for any of that. I say, this is the best game in town. This is the best play in Mitya. What else? What other play you want to play in Mitya? You understand? Once you come to that understanding, you say, oh God, thanks God, I got a play now, I got a game now that's worth playing, you know? It may take considerable time. From a young age, we were taught to identify with the body mind rather than awareness that perceives all experience. This misidentification is the roots of our bondage to external objects, and it means to satisfy and fulfill us. So we know that. We know samsara, we know how ignorance is so hardwired and persistent, no? And therefore it takes some time, you know. And just imagine if you would want to give up Vedanta and this search or this indefinite nididhyasana, this process of refinement of the intellect and holding to that vision of our free, limitless nature, living in nature from that platform, from that angle. You understand? Just imagine, no, I don't want to do any of that anymore. So I'm going to I'm going to do something else. Claudio, just imagine how long you could live without playing this game. Yeah, it's impossible to go back. No, I'm gonna play a full samsara, I'm gonna go back and it's only about money and I want to have a good relationship, a better house, and I want to, enjoy all the pleasures. I mean, it's not appealing anymore because of what? Because now Claudio is a much more mature and wise young man. You understand? We cannot go back.
I think that if you leave, it's because you don't understand. Because
Yes. Yeah.
because if you understand, it's almost impossible to go totally back. Of course,
Yeah.
you can fall in desires. Can always happen, but you cannot go
Yeah.
back
You
really.
go back there, you have a desire, you say, okay, I'm okay. I'm being too hard on myself. I'm going to go for it. And then go, and then in the end you say, it's okay. Again, I realized that there's no work, Let me go back to the Upanishads. Vedanta tells us that we are already whole and complete, that happiness and limitlessness are the essence of our true nature. Nothing in the external world is capable of giving us what we already possess. Our, intrinsic nature is limitlessness. it's time tested logic. So it's time tested because it has been going on since the beginning of creation. Creation comes, the living organism develops, and then we have intelligent living organisms, and these intelligent living organisms begin living for security and pleasures, and then it develops a notion, an understanding of Dharma, of respecting the harmony of creation, and then in due time it introspects to try to understand what is behind this running to gain things and keep things and avoid things. So one maturity comes, and then one immediately is going to be interested in understanding what is the purpose of this creation. Okay, it is a time tested logic. It exists from the beginning of times, for as soon as these contemplative mature souls walked on the earth, on this planet at least, they develop, they understand, connecting the dots, that there must be a purpose here, and the work, living a life just trying to consume experience for the sake of satisfaction is not working, and then it works. So I tend to, I'm inclined to believe, and this the text and many of our gurus says that Vedanta exists from the beginning of the creation of the contemplative human beings, because the moment that these highly mature contemplative souls that we refer to as the rishis begin searching for those fundamental essential questions, the questions are provided because it's built into the system. The creation is made out of intelligence, and that does not exclude the spiritual knowledge, spiritual intelligence, okay, and its laws. So it has been always there as a manual to liberate, to help these mature souls to put an end to suffering, samsara. So it's time tested. It is based on the logic of our experience, not properly understood, examined. It proves to us that we are already whole, full, and nothing is lacking. So we are just this limitless, complete, one without a second consciousness. Consciousness, original consciousness. At this stage, we have no remaining doubts. We now know the truth. Okay, so when this time test body of knowledge teaching methodology does its works due to our qualifications, and then comes to a point that we understand what Vedanta is saying, at that stage, all our questions, all our doubts are resolved, and we accept the truth as a fact. However, it takes time to shift our entire world view. Yet it takes time to shift our entire world view and see the world from this vision, from this angle, that everything is just consciousness, and all of this is just Maya projecting all these phenomena objects, dynamically moving and shifting and changing. And that includes the agent, the body mind complex of the Jivatma. So all of the entire world then can be seen objectively as a mere appearance, a trick played by Maya. Okay, it takes time for that. We know the truth, however, it takes some time to shift our entire view of the world. We have identified ourselves as limited jivas, the body mind construct, limited by all means. For so many lifetimes, we spend lifetimes looking to find a solution, in internal, external objects, something that could stabilize our minds, could make us feel joyful, free, and secure. Okay, so it takes time. It takes time because those vasanas, they don't die all at once with self-knowledge. Self-knowledge, not self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is one of the best, if not the best, purifier of the mind. Self-knowledge is the greatest burner of ignorance-based vasanas. But self-knowledge, self-recognition, not necessarily is going to kill or to cancel all those videos, those vasanas that still are there sitting in the causal body. Okay, there are some of those more persistent, hardwired. They may remain, and almost invariably they remain. Okay, so we have identified with the body mind, and we always felt like limited individuals, and we still have those vasanas that here and there may say, well, okay, but I need this or that. I know I am conscious, but I need this and this and that. Don't only three things, but I'm sorry, I can't live without those three things. Okay, so this ignorance is so deeply rooted, and they don't disappear overnight. That's why we see this play of 5, 10, and 15. So eh, Vedanta is cruel in the sense that it does not present facts in a political manner, diplomatic manner. It presents them as they are, you know, and that's why most of us we just turn our back and we go back to the world of experience. The momentum of our past mindset will continue to exert an influence on our day-to-day experience of life. Again, this is all said because it is the experience of everybody who comes to self-recognition one way or the other, and then by the grace of Ishvara gets in contact with the Vedanta, you know, scriptures, the Upanishads, and then keeps doing this work, okay? And it is an experience of everyone that there will be remainings of ignorance surface in one's subtle body, in one's conscious mind, okay? And some of them may be a pain in the neck, and some of them may make us, to stumble in life here and there. So it's a common experience, you know, which is reported by most of transparent and yanis, because there are some yanis that, oh no, no, it's just perfect satisfaction, you transcend this and that. No, you still remain associated to a body mind, and there will be still some remainings of ignorance, like Ramana Maharaj used to put, remainings of ignorance. They may still surface here and there. This momentum of our past mind self will continue to exert a certain influence. A smoker may see the necessity to quitting smoke, but the sheer force of this addiction means it will take time to truly be free of the addiction. So it's like an addiction, this identification with the body mind. Understand? It begins as a habit, and then a habit turns to be an addiction, and then addictions, as we know, are difficult to break. Huh? There may be withdrawal symptoms and a continued compulsion to keep smoking. Oh yes, just once a day. Once a day, it's okay. I deserve once a day, one cigarette. He or she must learn to retrain the mind. It's no use simply having the knowledge that smoking is bad. That knowledge must be actualized by stopping smoke altogether. Only then can he or she be free of cigarettes, of smoking, right? In a similar way, Nididhyasana is the stage in which we learn to actualize the knowledge we have gained. Okay, we do not accept anymore to be pushed around by certain vasanas. But you say, but who cares? Vasanas, they belong to Ishvara. I have transcended the body-mind construct. I have transcended three bodies. You understand? I know I'm not my vasanas, I'm not my tendencies, I'm not my habits, I'm not my addictions. You understand? But if we want to enjoy the fruits of self knowledge, we cannot accept to be pushed around by negative, adamic addictions or ignorance based. What is a binding vasana? It's a vasana that pushes us around. So, and then if I want to enjoy my freedom and live a life relatively free from conflicting karmas, so I need to take control of these bits and pieces of ignorance, although I know that I don't identify with them. This is a very, very subtle subject now, which distinguish self-knowledge by self-actualization in the language of Ramji. Self-actualization is when this binding vasanas is still operating. They are turned non-binding. Okay, and the sense of the ego, the doership. I am the doer. Okay, also is extensively cancelled. So there is no sense I am doing anything, and there is no binding vasanas that can bend the jiva and force the jiva to act in certain ways, which is contradictory to one's self knowledge and Ishvara knowledge. Okay, our dependence on external objects must be dropped bit by bit. Our dependence. Okay. So I can live without it. I can live without it. I can live without it. But it's okay to have it, to have that, to have that what. But do I really depend on all of that for my sense of security and joy and peace? That's the point. Vedanta is not against the material world. It's against depending and leaning, you know, keeping your happiness based on your possessions. So because this is ignorance, you understand? You cannot be free and at the same time to be bound to objects. That's the point here. Our dependence must be dropped bit by bit. This is achieved by consistent Nididhyasana. Okay, observing the thoughts, patterns, compulsions that continue to arise in the mind due to the past momentum, and measuring these against our newfound self-knowledge. So we see those patterns, we see those compulsions, those binding desires. They arise in the conscious mind. It's due to the momentum. It's just remainings of those vasanas, ignorant vasanas that survived the event called self-recognition. So they are going to exhaust themselves, and we need to keep our posture. We need to hold our position and just measure those tendencies, okay? Against, in the light of self-knowledge, say, no, 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 I'm not going to go there because there is no point. I know that I am fully satisfied and peaceful in my very nature, and I know that those notions belong to my past. None of these desires are going to resolve my problem. The only thing that resolves it is to hold on to my freshly found self knowledge, self recognition. Okay, it's just one few lines here, and then we are done. The knowledge then gradually permeates the mind. This is very nice. Then this knowledge is not something that you have to be clinging to. You know that notion that, oh, yes, I am, but I have to keep remembering myself that I am consciousness. Now, the knowledge permeates the mind. So the mind, you know, is permeates or pervaded, you know, by this knowledge in a way that the knowledge operates from that angle, from that perspective. Okay, so this is when it's being properly integrated. The knowledge then gradually penetrates, permeates the mind, lessens, entrenched likes and dislike, the binding vasanas, desires and fears, and the individual becomes what is called Jiva Mukta, free while it's still hooked to a body-mind construct. It's still hooked, it's still associated to the body-mind, but it's free of the world in spite of the world, free of the objects in spite of avidya and the objects that appears in the world. Okay, this is called the liberated person. Okay, liberate from what? And we can say that, oh, it's liberate from the world. But no, I mean, but the world is still there. The guy is still going to work every day in the morning. Yes, but he's free from the world. Okay, it's not that he has to go to a cave. It's free from the world because the world does not stick to him anymore. He does not depend on what is happening in the world for its happiness. Its happiness now comes from a different source, and this source is the self-knowledge. You understand? This self-recognition, this certainty, doubtless knowledge in respect to one's true limitless nature. Okay? This is the liberate. It's free from the ignorance and free from dependence. It's free from suffering. It's free from, all those uncomfortable human experience, which are all rooted on the fundamental problem, which is self-ignorance. As pure, limitless consciousness, the self is always free, but it's not really free until the knowledge is properly integrated, assimilated, that the individual enjoys its freedom. This is called moksha, here and there present as perfect satisfaction, okay? Because the individual is already free, limitless, but it's not really free. It is, but it's not. Why? Because it believes it's not. It believes it is the body-mind construct, okay? And then it's only until this knowledge is fully integrated, assimilate, clear, a doubtless, a doubt-free self-knowledge, only then the individual is free, and that is referred in our scriptures as moksha, okay? Okay, I think this was a very nice class today, and I enjoyed that you guys stayed with it, and I understand you guys appreciated it. And if we have any contemplation, further contemplation that brings about any doubt, we can address in our next Thursday class. Okay. So now, having said that, does anybody has anything to say, question, complain at this point? Okay, then I say goodbye. I love to hear about David. I'm going to send him a short message, and I hope he will be back with us soon again with a good, properly functioning heart to carry on his Nididhyasana. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamedavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, thank you. See you next time, Ishwara willing. Okay, and we keep doing the great work, the good work, our final work here, huh, Claudio? Okay, much love.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Avinda. Bye now.
Bye bye. Nice to have you back here, Elizabeth, on our Thursday class.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.